Hola! Hi! So the reason I'm making this video today is because I'm home from work with the symptoms of a migraine, and that stopped me going to work today because I feel rotten eggs. So I thought I'd just make this video because when I get these migraines, I lie there after the event, and when what I can see again and my vision's back and I'm lonely and scared, and I always Google things like hemiplegic migraine, which is the ones that I get, if there's any cures for them yet, what are other people's experiences, what can I take to get rid of the pain, how can I stop feeling miserable for them, and what set it off. And I feel like knowledge is power when it comes to this, because when you get these migraines, you feel very alone, and you just want somebody to tell you it's okay and that you're not the only one. And so that's why I Google it. So I thought, I never find a video of somebody doing a vlog of something that they've experienced during a migraine or anything like that. So I thought at least I can make somebody, even if it's just one person, feel a little bit safer and less alone, then it's worth it. So the introduction to my migraines. So when I was maybe 12, I had my first migraine and I didn't realize that's what it was. I remember looking in my eye because I thought I could see something in there, looking in the mirror, and I was like, Mum, there's something in my eye, look, have a look for it, it's there. And she said, no, there's nothing in there, and thinking I was trying to bunk off school. And turns out that was the aura part of the migraine that I was then going to continue having until adulthood. And so I had never heard of them, I didn't know what it was. My mum told me off and sent me to school, and I had this agonizing headache all day. And after that, I kind of didn't really have one. I didn't have one for a while, and then I got into my later teens and they began again. A lot of the time during my menstrual cycle, when I was super duper tired, if I'd spent a night out doing whatever teenagers do, I'd get them. And the doctor tried me with all sorts of medication eventually then. I had propranolol, which I think is for epilepsy or anxiety, but you have to have it in a high dose for it to try and prevent the migraines. I had amitriptyline, which amitriptyline is apparently a really medieval drug, and they shouldn't really give it to people, but I think it's cheap. This was all in the UK, and they were treating me for. So they didn't even diagnose me, actually. I think I diagnosed myself. Because I said to the doctor, this is a very serious matter, but I said, I'm going to kill myself. If you don't help me, I'm going to kill myself, because I was getting them at that point maybe every 2 to 3 days, and they would knock me out for 2 days. And it was horrible, and I didn't know where to go, and I didn't want to live like that, and really I was probably too scared to kill myself. But it made her sit up and decide, okay, we need to find a preventative, we've got to stop you getting these. There was nothing I could take on the onset, because they'd tried me with triptans, and triptans don't work with these type of migraines. I think they can give you long-term side effects if you take triptans with them, so they're no good. It was just horrible. And I felt so alone, and nobody I know was getting the same thing, and I was young, and it was horrible. And then they put me on Topamax, Topramate it was called in the UK. The brand name I think is called Topamax here. And suddenly I just didn't get them, and it was great. And I would just go for months and months and months, like maybe once every 6 months or so, when I had a really high stress period or a really sad time where I hadn't slept properly, and I'd get a really blowout migraine, like one that was like had been waiting in the wings. But yeah, it was amazing. It was just the best experience. I just knew that they were held at bay. But still, I feared getting them. I still feared, I'd look at a light and I'd be like, oh no, is that the aura? Like, is that what's beginning? Because what happens when I get these migraines is, hemiplegic in simple terms means paralysis. And that means that, half of the side of my body goes numb. So I begin with this aura, which starts out as something very tiny in my eye line. And then it starts getting bigger and bigger, and then it's got these zigzag lines. And in the center of whatever the zigzag is, you can't see. It's like a blockage where it's kind of like clear. You can't see what you're looking at. You'll look directly at something, and that bit of it will be missing. And then around the outside is a zigzag, which kind of has a silvery, shimmery like silver and black maybe. If I could only look at it for long enough and be able to draw it, I would. Sorry, excuse me, I've got a cold. Yeah, and so it begins like that, and then I'll start getting numb. So I'll get, it's like pins and needles, but painful pins and needles, and it'll feel like you just don't have a limb there anymore. So I used to get this in my leg and my arm. It was gross. I'd be like dragging myself around, and again, I wasn't dragging myself. I was like lying in bed, like I need to be over this. What is this? But yeah, like if you get up and you try and do things, like if you try and pick something up with your hand, it just doesn't work. And I'd like try and step up steps, and I'd completely miss it. It was like all my cognitive cognitive action had gone. Like I'd try and walk, and I'd be like trying to step over something, and it would be like I hadn't lifted my foot. It was really disgusting. And then that was like probably one of the worst. You know, those times when I had to be awake through those things, they're like the worst I've ever experienced. Majority of the time I just shove painkillers in me and jump in bed and like pray that I'll fall asleep really quickly. Which doesn't really happen because you're in pain already. So after the numbness sort of subsides, then you'll start getting the throbbing pain. I'd get numb in my mouth and numb from my nose to my lip, and then after that I wouldn't be able to talk properly, so people would talk to me and I wouldn't be able to talk, and I wouldn't be able to text properly. The text would come out wrong. Really, really horrible. And then the day after as well, if I cough or bend over, it feels like my brain is like pressing against my skull, and it's just horrible. And also with that, I still feel confused and like I'm tripping over my words, as you can probably see. Yeah, and it's just horrible. So when I get them, I feel very lonely and scared, and I know that I have to go through all this by myself, and I just wish that somebody could be here to take it away, or just hold my head to remind me that it's still screwed onto my body. But you don't have people to look after you, really. Like, you have to look after yourself, especially when you come across the other side of the world. Anyway, I was on Topamax for 7 years, and I was still getting the random ones coming through, and I was suffering a few migraines here and there, but at the most, I wasn't really, I wasn't having too much time off work, I wasn't getting that sick. It's hard to explain to somebody that what you're going through and that it's a very serious thing, because people just think migraines are headaches. They don't think that they're very serious. They think that, oh, stop whinging. Yeah, but I decided to come off Topamax because I was getting side effects from it, which I'm assuming are side effects of that. Like, I'd be confused, and I would couldn't pluck my words. Like, people would be asking me something, and I'd forget what they'd asked me, or I'd be mid conversation, and I wouldn't know what I was about to say, and I was getting these like tingly fingers too. I'd just wake up in the morning and I'd get tingly fingers. People said that was due to smoking or things like that, but on looking on the side effects of this medication, it is actually a side effect. So I would also get these cold spots on my head, on my brain. I feel like it's on my brain, and it just feel cold, and then it goes zzz, like a tingly feeling, which kind of happens when I first see the aura. So I don't know if they're related. I don't know if I'm feeling these things because I get migraines and I just have a weird brain, and apparently it's something to do with a mutated gene where your brain, the neurotransmitters, I don't know all the scientific words. Anyway, they don't process protein properly, and it sends the wrong signal sometimes. And they can't do anything about that. That's just something that happens to your genes when you are being made. I think I've got the sporadic hemiplegic migraine gene, because my family suffer from migraines with aura, but they've never had the migraines with the hemiplegic side of it, where you go numb. So I'm the first. And that means my children will have 50% chance of getting them too. So maybe I'll just not have kids, because I think it's mean. Yeah, I'm feeling way better than I did. I had a whole day in bed yesterday in agony. This morning I woke up and I barely wanted to stand. It's 1:30 in the afternoon now, and I'm not feeling too bad. I've just got some strong painkillers from the doctor too, from the pharmacy, so hopefully that's going to help. Yeah, I came off the Topamax because of those side effects, the forgetfulness, I felt like I was drowsy a lot of the time. Um, Maybe I came off them maybe like 6 months ago, maybe less. I feel better. I feel better than I did when I was taking them. I hate getting these migraines, but really I was getting breakthrough migraines anyway, and I was taking Topomax twice daily. I can't remember what milligram I was taking. I think it was 50 milligrams, so I wasn't on a very high dose, but taking 25 in the morning and 25 in the evening. And the only option was to keep upping them. I'd say I've had 2 migraines this month, up the dose. And I don't want to live like that. I don't want to be somebody who's rattling around. Um, Anyway, if anybody, the reason I did this video, because if anybody has any experiences they can share with me, or any advice, or it wants me to talk to them, because I know how hard it is talking to somebody who doesn't understand. And it's disheartening, and it makes you desperate, it makes you want to cry, because you feel all those feelings, as I said, as depression and misery and sadness and confusion, and you go through all this and you do feel alone. So if anybody just wants to speak to somebody who understands, then drop me a message, comment below. Yeah, anyway, stop boring your ear off now. Thanks for listening.